So for the journey today on the all-new Tianjin West-Daxing Airport Express Intercity line, I'll be on the 0758 service from Tianjin West to Daxing International Airport, and luckily, the train will call at the two new stations of Anci and Yongqing East. I've been watching this line for a fair bit, a little bit over zero COVID, and especially after the travel bans have been limited far more. And I've actually been to the two stations, not inside them, but the outside, and it's basically like seeing stations grow up, stations in the middle of nowhere that eventually become very big stations, very much the way that other stations have grown across China. The two new stations of Anci and Yongqing East are now reality, and are the only two new stations on the entire line, which appears less a flagship line than other lines in the vicinity. However, it makes a lot of sense for people arriving by air. Very few overseas carriers currently fly into mainland Chinese cities other than Beijing and Shanghai, so if you wanted destinations which are big domestically, yet not so much on the map in the wider world, you'll have to connect with a domestic flight, but they're prone to delays and are less comfortable. The new line promises rail connections from Daxing Airport to Tianjin West, where customers can connect onto high-speed services to northeastern and eastern China, including destinations such as Shenyang, Jinan, and Qingdao, amongst many others. Indeed, Tianjin West was where the action began early in the morning on the 18th of December 2023. Gate 24B hosted travellers on the inaugural service. After suffering 3 years of rigid zero-COVID rules and almost universal masking, today's launch party was by far the most normal, with masks less visible than before, and no one being required to produce a COVID pass or test. It was all over, and it was all normal again. Photo ops, one after the other, heralded the launch of the new service. The train departed at 0758 hours, westbound in the winter snow. We're not sure if we can keep this through to Christmas Eve, but it was a nice, wintry, if not rather chilly sight. At Chengfeng Railway Station, the train branched off to the newly opened part of the Tianjin West to Daxing Airport Intercity Railway, leaving behind the line between Tianjin and Baoding. The first port of call was Anci Station, in the far western part of the city of Langfang. At two platforms, it was the smaller of the two new stations opened. Next up was Yongqing East, a larger station at 4 platforms. After losing its first planned high-speed station, Yongqing West, to the nearby county of Gu'an, it finally was on the HSR map. Even members of government from the local county authorities were on the platform for the county's first high-speed station. The line is flat, so you'd expect no tunnels. Not so, however. 2 artificial, if you will, tunnels were built. The first a cluster to keep a certain safe distance from the power lines above, and the second an elevated city tunnel in central Yongqing, so to ensure trains would be less noisy passing through the built-up parts of the county centre. The line then joins the Beijing to Xiong'an intercity railway at Gu'an East station. This is so far the largest station on the line, currently counting 6 platforms, but ready to expand when new lines connect it in the future. Throughout the inaugural journey, there were on-board performances, including a quiz, and transport officials briefing riders how the railway network of northern China's Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei area would expand. Shortly before the end, we went underground to reach Daxing Airport, where all platforms are located underneath the airport. The air hub itself only had 1 of 2 railway stations opened. Coming soon is another intercity part for a new line to Langfang Development Area and eventually Beijing-Tongzhou and Capital Airport. Air connections are effortless at the airport, with check-in counters and access to security for all mainland domestic flight passengers located on the same level as the railway station. Those inbound from the rest of the mainland arrive on level 2. But it's the international links that make it a key link. As mentioned, only a few international carriers serve mainland China cities other than Beijing and Shanghai, so one option is to make a flight connection. The far greener way, though, involves travelling by rail, and because Tianjin West was built to enable it to become a transfer hub, coupled with more frequent connections, it hence makes much more sense to reach nearby cities such as Shenyang in northeastern China or Jinan, Qingdao or Suzhou in eastern China by rail. International passengers just go one level down from level 1 arrivals. And if you're leaving mainland China here, lifts take you straight to level 4 for the departures hall. There are currently 4 trains per direction on the new intercity link, although we could see in future at least double this figure as early 2024. And if your destination isn't in eastern or northeastern China, but in central or western China, you could also connect via Beijing West railway station. With the country having the largest high-speed railway network anywhere in the world, getting there by rail just makes much more sense. And so there you have it. The new intercity line between Tianjin West and Daxing International Airport open to much fanfare and festivity. A new line that links China closer to the rest of the world, especially good news if you're flying into the country to Beijing Daxing Airport, onward to northeastern or eastern or central China. I'm off next to Beijing. Big news coming up is in terms of a tube. The new line 16 and 17 extensions are next, and if you're lucky, also a bit more off the 11.